All right, everybody, we're going to watch a video by Bellular News that talks about the new Battlefield 6 and what's going on with it, how it is. Are people loving it? People are hating it. So let's get into it.
I want to make a good game. That's a message that was sent from DICE's combat experience producer over to their principal game designer several years ago. And with Battlefield 6's release, it seems they have in fact made a great game. It's not a perfect one, but when we break down what worked versus what didn't, we can see how this team has achieved a stunning turnaround from 2042, which had a launch Steam score that looks like this, to the current Steam score.
2042 was a terrible game. I bought it when it was on sale for they were giving it away. It was like $2 or $3. And so I bought it and I couldn't get it to work like hardly at all. And like somebody told me, "Oh, there's workarounds, there's this and that." I'm like, "Why? Why do I have to go in and edit these files and do this and that to make the game run?" It was a buggy mess.
Could not be more different. Okay, here's the story you need to know. Battlefield 2042 was obviously a disaster at launch. Now, that team probably wanted to make a good game as well. So here's the thing. They never really got a chance to make a good game. And here's the story of why. They allegedly had just 15 months of development time, and they needed at least 6 more months. That's because the game went through multiple entire redesigns, from being a battle royale to an extraction shooter to a classic Battlefield game.
That's what
Meanwhile,
happens.
engine rebuilds kept resetting their progress, and staff attrition just, matched the chaos of the development environment.
It could have been a good game.
All odds were stacked against them. And what happened is that after that disastrous launch, EA hit the reset button. Senior leadership, they were replaced at almost every level. And most important was Respawn Entertainment's Vince Zampella, because he got control of the whole franchise. Now, he's the man credited with making Call of Duty an utter powerhouse. And that stuff went down December 2021. After that, a humongous undertaking followed. Essentially, the 2042 team spent 4 years rebuilding that game into something better. And at the same time, EA then built up Battlefield Studios, which, I need to say, has not gone perfectly. There are some pretty spicy allegations we'll get into later in this video.
That doesn't sound good.
If the test of this overall group's work is Battlefield 6, well, the good news is that they have succeeded. Here's something fun to give you a taste of their success.
So far.
Analia Analytics are an analytics firm, and they reported that the team's achieved 3.5 million Steam wishlists and 1.8 million pre-orders. That's a lot. That's $100 million in revenue alone.
Wow.
And on launch, audiences had high expectations. EA did as well. After all, the beta was a massive success. It basically showed people a well-performing shooter, shocking enough in itself, that kind of echoed the best bits of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. And now that we're a few days after launch, we know that those high expectations have been met. Steam concurrent player count spiked at nearly 750,000 people. That's the 14th highest of all time. And as a lifelong Battlefield fan, yeah, feels pretty good. Server queues reached over 500,000 players at some points, but overall, things went incredibly smoothly. Minimal bugs, though there are bugs, looking at you campaign, but overall quite good. Not in the least because the one worst bug that happened wasn't really Battlefield Studios' fault, but it is one worth talking about because of how Electronic Arts and Vince Zampella reacted to it, and that is the story of the EA app. It really
Installation of content. We're aware of an issue preventing players from accessing the game, with some receiving an error stating that they need to purchase the DLC or similar. Stay tuned for further updates. Well, at least they did put out an update, but I haven't bought the game yet. I've been waiting for it to go on sale because I am going to buy it on Steam so I can play it online without having to pay a membership fee to play online. And so I'm waiting for it to go, I don't know, at least 20 to 30% off, and then we will definitely get into this.
Didn't put its best foot forward. Essentially, on PC, it had an error on release. Now, because the game lets you install each part separately, the store then had to go and verify ownership at launch, and that ended up taking hours. It's insane that this was a problem, and it turns out that Vince Zampella, well, kind of went to the Randy Pitchford school of customer support. Just, he kind of did a better job of it. He told at least one commenter to just refund the game on the EA app and just buy it in Steam. That's not ideal for your pre-order bonuses, but it's at least quite funny.
That's
but you know what's even more
terrible
telling, right?
recommendation.
It's the corporate response. Because within 8 hours of launch, they fixed that problem, and anyone impacted got 24 consumable XP boosts to make up their time, plus a full free season of the Battle Pass. That's pretty damn good. Now, the speed of—
He shouldn't have made a comment like that, because now he just made a whole lot of people feel really bad about how they were treated with the game. He could have literally just replied with, "We're working on a fix." If it only took 8 hours to fix it, what was the point of like being mean about it? He could have just literally stayed professional and said, "We will have it fixed." Plain and simple. Done. The freaking gall of some of these people.
the fix is one thing, but the speed of the make good is another here, and it does bear well on them. And what we can tell from both is that EA absolutely wants to make people happy, and as we've covered in this channel before, EA really needed to make sure everyone was happy. There's quite a lot hanging over this game. So, let's talk about what worked out and what very much didn't work out. Well, on the bright side of things, we've got an 84% critic average and a 92%
I love how everything
recommendation over an open
destroys.
critic. That's basically brilliant. Now, some critics have got concerns over how safe the game is and how it's not really adding a lot new to the franchise.
Safe.
But, as somebody who didn't really want what they added to the
Going from Battlefield 2042 to this is like night and day. They weren't super safe.
franchise before, I think I'm happy enough. And what we overall see is multiplayer sticking the landing. It's obviously what we want the most from Battlefield. The teamwork, the objective play, gadgets, kits, basically all work for Combined Arms gameplay. Personally, I'm having an absolute blast. The sound design is still some of the best in the industry, and there's just a boots in the ground.
And I haven't had a
aesthetic
chance
that I
to
think most people are
play
on board for.
on
There are some
PC
critiques, though.
yet,
These
so
critiques are
I
around
played the
lessons learned
beta on
from Call of
PlayStation
Duty.
because at the
And
time
by
my
lessons,
power
I
supply
mean
was
maps,
messing up.
UI and progression.
But wow,
But those
I am going
problems
to
aren't really enough to
smash
sour
these
the
kids.
experience. Overall, it's great, and it seems that all of that EA Labs testing actually paid off. I guess a little similar to what's happened with Skate. Now, there's a slight discrepancy between critic reviews and Steam user reviews, as is the tradition. The English reviews are 82% positive, but if you flip it over to all languages, it's 76%. If you hop over to Steam Scout, well, you find out why. 50% positive reviews in Chinese, 64% in Russian. So for some reason, the Chinese and the Russians are not particularly happy, and it turns out that's basically because of localization. There are no Russian language options at all, and apparently the Chinese localization just blows. But what
Look, to be honest, who cares about them? This is our game. This is made for us. This is not for them. If they want to play it, they can play it in English.
maybe more important here is the Chinese reviews only make up 18% of the total, while English ones are 50%. That's quite the split. And it's one that exists in spite of a massive marketing campaign in China, so it seems that audience hasn't really shown up for this one in the way that they have for other games this year. But then there's the elephant in the room. There's the thing that personally I think kind of blows, and that's the single player campaign. It's widely disliked, and you know what? There's a lot of reasons why, and there's a story behind its development that you actually may not know. So, this stuff actually does matter. And the reason why is because despite there are, perceptions of nobody giving a shit about a campaign for Battlefield, and by the way, I'd count myself as someone who really thinks Battlefield shouldn't be bothering with those, an EA survey of beta players saw 30% of people excited about the return of the campaign. I don't think they'll be excited by what they got, because what they got is a set of levels that are loosely themed around assets from multiplayer maps that lurch you around from set piece to set piece with this strange wraparound cutscene based narrative that's basically just designed to set up the eventual battle royale that we're 99.9% sure will be dropping very soon.
Wow.
And it's weird. The dialogue and the narrative especially feel like they are from the worst of military pulp novels. It's quite something. And the best way we could capture it here is to say that the vibe is basically that it seems like this was the first or the second draft of the campaign, and they basically had to go and make it. And that actually backs up Ars
And that is
Technica's
another
reported.
reason why
This
it's
is where
best
things get
to
really
buy it
interesting. So
later,
according to them,
especially,
this
6
campaign
months,
was
7 months later
freshly
when it's on
started
sale
in February
and they've
2024.
released
Well,
more
that's because
content for it.
Ridgeline Studios was shuttered. So it got shut down, and then 3 other studios picked up the work. And at that point, campaign development restarted. That then led to 19 months of working from scratch, whilst, of course, delivering the rest of the game, and they apparently still failed to hit the alpha mark by late spring 2025. And to give an idea of what that means, right? Generally speaking, an alpha would mean you've got all your features and your tech done, but maybe not all of your content. A beta would generally be all your features are there, all your content is in. So the fact that they still were not at the alpha mark in late spring of this year is, I mean, kind of insane, but after completing the campaign, completely unsurprising. You can see some missions like the one set in New York that actually do feel planned and like they actually got the time and the love that they deserved. And then a lot of the other missions just fall completely flat. They really do feel like there's a map, we've put some dudes in the map and a few objectives, and that's basically it. But what's important is what we learn from this campaign, because more than anything else, it highlights the cost and the risk of making complete, utter mega games like this one. So, let's dive into the cost. In case you're unaware, Battlefield Studios is a whole bunch of studios. It combines veteran franchise developers like DICE, Criterion, Ripple Effect, and then EA Motive, who contributed a team towards the campaign whilst also working on their Iron Man game. Now, Ridgeline. Ridgeline was the single-player studio, and it was led by Halo co-creator Marcus Leto. It was shuttered in 2024, and according to the Ars Technica report I mentioned earlier, they were asked to make a campaign whilst also building the studio with fairly little oversight to protect them and, just give them the stuff that they needed. So in total, Battlefield 6 was made by 5 studios and a whole support network's worth of staff, a shitload of people, and apparently it was not easy. Staff flagged to Ars Technica that stage gates were passed with prototypes and plans that really shouldn't have been. And just to kind of make that less
how much
industry
money
lingo,
they spent.
essentially milestones, right? Like development milestones. Essentially, it seems that they were passed even when really they shouldn't have been passed, because basically there was a lot of shit to get done and the game had to move forwards. Apparently long hours were needed to manage the time zone commitments because this was a distributed team across loads of studios in loads of countries. This then led to a lot of burnout. A lot of their processes were hit hard. Some staff actually needed 2 weeks of leave to recover. Others needed 9 months.
They were crunching.
Which I guess is understandable if you think about people maybe crunching for the entire development of 2042 and then crunching for a bunch of the development of this game. You would be kind of ran ragged. Anyway, this was also a project that still was delayed internally. So this is a game that was not pushed out the door. It was in fact delayed as compared to their initial plan, which certainly tells us that EA's initial plan probably would have, well, kind of killed Battlefield. It's very much not the timeline we're in now. I think it's also a good reminder that crunch and bad treatment of staff doesn't necessarily make bad games, right? That's a trap that we can fairly easily fall into talking about. Because sometimes the devs do want to make a good game, and they do make a good game. It's just real costly to them as people. And I guess the only saving grace is, well, that if Battlefield 6 succeeds in this very different and pretty difficult context of its development, and if it sells well and it reaches the goals of EA's old leadership, then perhaps the new incoming owners, there's a whole video about that story in the channel, well, maybe they may not see an immediate need for layoffs and efficiency hunting. But the cost does appear to have been significant here, on a personal level, but also on a structural level. As an example, EA Motive might escape with only half of their studio being absorbed into Battlefield Studios, but Criterion probably won't. And if you're the sort of person who loved what Criterion used to make,
let's be honest, there's really nothing good coming out of EA right now. Battlefield.
Yeah. You're probably not going to get that because now Criterion has been consumed.
We haven't gotten a great,
but at least from the perspective of a Battlefield player,
Need for Speed game in years.
Consumed by the need to build a live service that can actually sustain the machine that has built it. Because make no mistake, it is a huge machine. All of these studios, it's a shitload of money. And speaking as someone who was there for a lot of Battlefield 5, what you'd really be afraid of is that the game comes out and then it just trips and falls over, and the content cadence just is not where it needs to be. At least from what I can tell thus far, it doesn't seem we're in for a repeat of that. Here's what we know about the live service. October 28th sees the beginning of the first season of this game. It'll bring a new map, new vehicles, new weapons, and a new mode.
That tank
Now,
just
a
ran
month later,
straight through
there's
the
going to be
fence
another
over that
similarly
tree.
sized patch, and then the December update is going to bring in a reskin and a seasonal mode. You get all that along.
All right, let's look at this. So, October 28th, we got a couple weeks. They are going to drop Rogue Ops. And that's a new map, new mode, new vehicles, new carbine, sidearm, sniper, and attachments. And then November 18th, we get the California Resistance, the new map. So this is all multiplayer stuff. New features, new shotguns, sidearm, and then December 9th, a limited time event map. Probably gonna be covered in snow, what it looks like. And a limited time event, a new melee weapon, ice climbing pickaxe. Okay, so that's pretty cool, but that's one reason. Hopefully all this is free, and so it really will make a huge difference to wait 6 months to a year, let a lot of content come out for the game, let the devs fix it, update it, and then you get it on sale, so now you got it much cheaper than everybody else. You got a stable, super awesome game with a lot of extra content, and it's like brand new.
Alongside the Battlefield Pass, which of course will then be kicking off 3 months.
Definitely won't be doing no Battle Pass.
Now there's also the eventual release of the Battle Royale mode. It's actually being tested in Battlefield Labs right now, and at least if the rumors are to be believed, this will be a free-to-play companion for the main paid multiplayer game. So essentially following the Call of Duty model, which does make a lot of sense because let's be real, Call of Duty has never looked weaker. And if I was in Activision shoes, I'd be a little bit worried. I think Battlefield can genuinely do a little bit of damage to it here. And next year, there's going to be this big thing in the market called Grand Theft Auto 6, which will be eating up loads of consumer money that, Activision will have to fight for, alongside a Battlefield that is far more competitive, maybe more competitive than it's ever been before. And if things really go well for EA, they'll have one thing that Call of Duty very much doesn't have, and that is Portal. So Battlefield 6's Portal system was up and running even before the launch with user-generated modes, there's maps, there's server experiences, there's so much cool stuff, guys. We saw Call of Duty's shipment map be built 2 hours before the game launched. There's throwbacks to games like SOCOM. It is SOCOM, third-person camera. There's even a full zombies mode. I've seen people use the UI tools to make Space Invaders and Snake. There's so much cool stuff. Now, of course, it's early. There are some teething problems with capacity of new servers, and there's XP farm issues. A lot of people are just, spending a lot of time killing bots to rank up their weapons. Because one thing is for sure, my god, the XP rates for unlocking all the stuff for your weapons are pretty damn slow in this game. Maybe that's something we'll see them address. But the big thing to watch out for is the success, or lack of success, that is found by Battlefield Portal content. Of course, if you go and take a look
I don't even know what Battlefield Portal is.
Where there's just these Roblox game modes that get
looks cool.
Basically like tens of millions of plays. Absolutely ginormous
so
in scale.
So I guess this is just
so many companies
where you make
want
your own
similar
maps.
user-generated content dynamics to be present
so cool,
in their games.
though.
Obviously, EA
Oh
wants
my
that.
gosh.
They talk about it a lot in like their their quarterly earnings reports and such. So if they can get that, then well, all of that Battlefield Studios development work will be supplemented by the community, and whenever you bring one of your operators into a Portal mode,
I would love to play that.
Cosmetics and microtransaction things that they try to sell you for the main game. Ultimately, though, my main takeaway is just how good I think this is for the industry. Call of Duty has not had serious competition in a long-ass time. And being real with you, I don't expect that Battlefield will suddenly eclipse COD. It may well do for some subsegments. It
definitely
of
will.
Call of Duty truly is ginormous, and look, for lack of a better word, it gets out there to the normies more than Battlefield ever has. But with proper competition, those COD players should actually also get a better game. And these companies, whenever they've got to spend more money on R&D to compete with each other, well, maybe they
Yes,
end up making better games. Maybe they
exactly.
begin to feel like they can't just go into farm the cash cow mode, because if they
Mm-hmm.
do, well, the competitors will be out to get them. As for the developers, well, they've worked incredibly hard to make a brilliant game and release, and their reward is to keep on making that game, for better or for worse. We'll have to
Wow,
see how it goes. I actually do
that
wish
is
this game the
awesome.
best. To be selfish, it's nice to see one of my favorite franchises actually doing well.
Well, you guys go follow Bellular News. I'll be putting them down in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you did stick around this long, shoot me a like and a follow